It sets a tone, but I'm also sick of hearing it. To the Tom Kelly Show. I am Tom Kelly, sidekick of the week, co-host of the week, friend doing me a favor of the week, Lauren Ray, 2 weeks in a row. Whatever, a woman who is serving way beneath her qualifications is here. Ophira Eisenberg, host of NPR's Ask Me Another on the show.
Yeah.
Today's show is so good, I'm bumping my first guest because he doesn't fit into the show we're doing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's a good guy, though. Jeffrey Gurian, there's a documentary on him. In fact, audience, do your homework so you can listen to next week's show. Find the documentary, Who the F is Jeffrey Gurian, Gurian. He's a guy who's been at the comedy clubs for years and nobody knows why. He's an interesting figure. And I recorded the interview. It's a good interview, but I'm going to put him in the can, save him for next week or something.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
Because I've had a question burning in me, Lauren, and I don't know if it makes sense. I listen to a lot of self-help podcasts. I should be listening to comedy podcasts.
Oh, no. I think that's great, actually.
Do you? Why?
Okay, so I'm a firm believer that if we stay where we have always been, life is going to suck. And so I think that like you have to force yourself to do these self-help things to be better. And that's like whether it's better at treating people better, like you're happier with yourself for your progress. Like, I think that says a lot. I think it's great.
So in this year of reinvention, and before I sound like I'm crying or that my life is a mess, listen, I'm in a much better spot than Lauren, ladies and gentlemen. She's the one who's falling apart.
Wait, explain that.
Well, I'm working and, you know.
I'm fine.
Are you?
I have to be honest with you. It's okay. So it's very funny that you bring that up because my husband and I talk about that perspective all the time because in the grand scheme of people who have lost their jobs during this pandemic, which I am one of those people, like I just filed for unemployment and saw that slip in this morning, you know, my direct deposit, and I was very happy. But we're way better off than I think most people who are in this position. So I feel the same way about you, where it's like, you know, I feel the same way that you do. But it's nice to kind of keep that in perspective. Like, oh, it could be worse. Like that's what I keep telling myself.
And so what Lauren has just pointed out is what's wrong with me.
Okay.
Is she is positive and happy, possibly financially destitute. I'm working. I'm working two jobs. My parents are healthy. My brother's family just getting over COVID. Thank God. They all seem to be healthy. My cousins had it. God bless them. My aunt and uncle had it. And all these people who, frankly, should have died from this are doing okay. And I am still fucking miserable. And so I listen to these podcasts. I was listening to Angie Lee, and she had a guest on, and the exercise was to ask your friends, when do you think I was at my best? And that way you might find inspiration for going forward or capitalizing on a skill that you have missed. And that maybe your friends have noticed great qualities about you that you did not know. And I went to my Facebook and asked my friends, when was I at my best? And everybody just wallowed in my past, and it made me miserable, man.
No.
You know, like it was, like there were a couple of funny answers about memories, which were nice. Like my friend Josh Aaron pointed out the time that I made out with a stranger on 5 seconds notice at a pool in Vegas. There were people talking about funny things I did in college, like stealing bagels in college. That wasn't what I was looking for. And there were a couple of nicer answers, like my friend Terry had a memory of when I ran a half marathon with her. She felt I was at my best.
Oh.
I liked that one. But then there were a lot of ones like, Tom, when you're performing for 20,000 people at a TV show, that's when you're at your best. And I want to say, yeah, but they don't fucking want me there. And... You know, like, right, and not that they don't want me there. Obviously, I'm incredibly talented, but I can't be there and they can't have me. And I don't know when that thing that brought me joy is coming back.
All right, let's do this. Let's unpack this.
Yeah, and frankly, even as a human being, I have COVID antibodies. I'm afraid of going on dates for fear of carrying the plague and bringing it back to somewhere precious to me. So, yeah, I guess there's a lot to unpack. That's why I'm trying to be so emo with this podcast. And special shout out to Josh Nanberg, who gave me the answer I think I wanted. Which was probably not the answer you want, but recently, Tom, you've been open, vulnerable, and thoughtful and authentic. Aww. And actually the part that makes you cry is he says, but I'm proud to know you and should have told you sooner. I'm emotional about that. A friend, Scott Baker, said something similar. But I guess that's it. Is like I'm trying to find the real Tom Kelly. And
I get it.
What do you, I mean, you unpack totally while I get my blood pressure down.
So, okay, first and foremost, I have to preface what I'm about to say with, I reached such a low this summer that I went on Zoloft. Okay. So like I do know that like part of this is the Zoloft talking. And okay. I do not believe that Zoloft suddenly makes you happy. I do think it allows you to utilize the coping skills and the tools that you have within you that you couldn't access before when everything was on overload. That's why I'm happier. Okay. So I do have to say, like, I am getting assistance from therapy and from Zoloft. Okay. But when I lost my job, and much like you're out of work right now in terms of the things that you were doing, right? Like on a daily, weekly basis in front of people. That made me happy. I
have other work, but the stuff that brought me the most joy is gone.
Yes. And when I lost my job, I just sat there and was like, who am I? Like, what am I if I don't have this job? I think that because I know it's going to sound like, oh, woe is us. We're creatives. We need the people to tell us that we're good. You know what? Screw it. I do like that feedback. That's part of who I am. And I have to accept the fact that like performance is something that brings me a lot of joy. And without that, it's been really hard. And I think that's normal. And so like the first step is I think you need to like allow that to be okay with you. Like that's okay.
Yeah, you know, and you just hit a big one. One, Zoloft. I'm calling Dr. Cheryl next week and asking for it.
Okay.
And two, who am I guess is the good question, because I don't want to be defined by the job titles.
Yes.
I don't want to just have to be a comedian. And it's funny, I have friends of mine down in Florida who talked about my time working as a merman. And that was my escape route, was to volunteer at a state park that's closed right now. You know, like I lost my escape routes. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's the question I'm asking myself is, one, when am I at my best? Can I double down on it? Mm-hmm. And two, who am I guess is a great question, because the one thing you got is you got a loving husband. Baby Sophie just turned 2 this week.
She did.
You know, and I guess I want to be more. I mean, I am a good son. I'm a good brother. I'm a good uncle. But even that feels like that's been taken away from me because I can't be around the 12 kids who call me uncle.
Sure.
Some of them I haven't had a real connection with in slightly over a year because time was passing.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm sad about that, and I don't want to make this too depressing, but I am asking that. So listen, I just realized this is the fun thing about talking to you. It's never short. Ophira Eisenberg, next segment. We're going to ask her about when I'm at my best, and we're going to ask her about her hit show, Ask Me Another. Then you, the listeners, are in a segment, The Jury, coming up. And then you know what? Lauren and I are going to just jerk around at the end of the show. And I'm going to read her fan mail. There's something to listen for.
Oh, I have fan mail.
When you turn 40-something, which I've been for a couple of years now, you set up a podcast.
It's so funny to hear a guy go 40-something, but anyways, I appreciate it.
No, and listen, and remember, you were you might be a year or two older than I am, and I only point this out because I remember flirting. I told the story last week where I was 21, fresh out of comedy. Ophira Eisenberg, who is the guest I'm talking to right now, was a star and the funniest woman I had seen at the time, and Canadian, which felt exotic. And I remember asking her out at whatever bar Chris DeLuca was doing a show at on Amsterdam Avenue.
Oh, the best! Yes, it will come to me.
And Ophira patted me on the head and said, "You're so sweet." And never had I felt so loved yet rejected. Like she should have written books on rejection, because I got the message. I didn't feel bad about myself. And you just gave me the little brother pat on the head. And you guys probably know her from her work on NPR, the fact that she's an award-winning storyteller at The Moth. I know her because she's rock and roll, and we started in comedy together, and she was a mentor and a friend and took me under her wing when I needed to be taken under her wing. Ophira, I miss you. Oh, and the moral of the story is, I think I set up a podcast just to catch up with friends, because that's the only way you catch up with moms and dads.
Yeah, absolutely. No, exactly. I think a lot of people do that. They're like, why don't I just turn my work and my social thing to the same thing? Because, what else are we going to do?
What's your story now? Like, for people who don't know, you're on Ask Me Another. Let's get the plug out of the way, because we're going to have fun.
Yeah, so I host a comedy trivia show on NPR called Ask Me Another, and formerly a live show that we did at a venue in Brooklyn called the Bell House, where we had a bunch of people in and we would do it all live, and then that was the show. And now we are, like everybody else, doing it from home. So it is, so I would say one thing, Tom, we get better guests because they don't have to physically be there.
Yeah, you got rid of the regular people and replaced them with celebrities.
Celebrities, yeah, because, in the Zoom format, having regular people we're all our own audio technician people. Mm-hmm. We're all our own lighting people. We're all IT department. We're everything. And so having this expectation of everyday regular people, when now I say that, and as I'm saying it to you, I'm like, well, then again, doesn't everyone have a podcast right now? Maybe everyone has a setup.
I feel bad for only having one.
But also just warming up someone who's not used to doing something on Zoom is a lot harder than warming them up on stage.
Do you get compared to Wait, Don't Tell Me, and how does that make you feel?
Constantly. Well, on one level, great, because it's like someone comparing you to, Wait, Don't Tell Me is the the shining beacon of success at NPR in terms of non-news programming. So to be compared to their best thing is no problem. It also, sometimes you're like, no, it's not that show, it's the other show. And then people go, what's that other show called again? Ask Me Anything? I agree. Ask Me Another. Not the greatest name, because it sounds way too much like everything else. It's the another part that we really, it's just a soft and anyhow. But we don't do news stuff. So that's the big difference. We don't do news stuff.
Oh, you do stuff. Your show makes me feel dumb. It gives me a headache.
We will not make you feel dumb. I wanted to brand the show as the dumbest show on NPR.
Really?
But they were not into that.
I hope that Terry Gross is smarter than you.
No, we are the dumbest show.
You're the dumbest show. But you're I'm trying to think of who's dumber than you on NPR. You're right. Maybe you are. But you're still smarter than whatever's on CBS.
Right. That's right. So when the bars are so low...
You just got to go somewhere with a lower bar.
Around everywhere else, you do a great job of it. Yeah. So and the show is fun with celebrities because, you think it's just a different feeling because obviously they're there to promote stuff. So it also just in terms of getting people on, and these people are comedy writers and actors and musicians and some writers, and it's fun because the one thing that everybody is the same with is even if we go, this is a true false game based on, I don't know, different types of succulents. Not even something that you're supposed to know. Not even unless we had a botanist on, no one is supposed to know this. People are still freaked out that they might fail.
Yeah.
Across the board. It doesn't matter. You go, nobody's supposed to know this. This is just for fun. It is true false. All of the things.
Is there a guest who was...
I hope I win.
Is there a guest who was most scared about losing? Is there someone who sticks out in your head as most afraid to lose?
I'm trying to think, but I will say that we had on two improvisers. God, I got to think of their names right now. Ben Schwartz, and the other guy is from Silicon Valley, and he also is an improviser whose name will come back to me. He's the redheaded guy. Does that help?
Should I start Googling redheaded improviser for you?
Yeah, I'll come across his name. But he, we sort of did a misstep, and this happens sometimes, where he, before he became a famous actor, spent a lot of time doing improv. And one of the things that people know from the improv world is often they do Shakespearean improv. That's right. a version. And he did a show that was part of doing a lot of Shakespearean improv. So based on that, we had a game for him based on Shakespeare that was pretty difficult. And it turns out like to do a Shakespeare in an improv game and to know Shakespeare are two very different things. And so he was pretty worked up about and I felt bad too, but there's no way to just make a Shakespeare quiz of 6-7 questions easier, because you can't make them all about Romeo and Juliet. Like at a certain point, you can only make one.
Yeah.
So I just, you could see that he did not love failing. Now, we've had plenty of other people on who we've given stuff to, and they have failed. They have failed, and they love it, and they fail hilariously. They fail, they fail, and they understand that this is the content.
You've just segued us into self-help mode very easily. Is that a secret of success? Do you have to love failure? Do you love failure?
No, God, no.
No?
But I will tell you, I did have an epiphany the other day.
An epiphany?
I had an epiphany. I actually had an epiphany. I don't think I've had one in years.
Did the three wise men show up with gifts epiphany, or?
Yeah, right. That's right. That is a day in your religion.
Yes, in our American Catholic religion.
No, I was thinking, I'm depressed like many other people. And I was thinking about just how dissatisfied I am and how hard it is, especially right now, to be dissatisfied, because there's not a lot of, new stimuli or things to do, or, give yourself a change of scenery. Like, there's just not a lot of access to things that might help that.
Yeah.
Other than self-reflection and talk therapy. But then I sort of was like, there's this thing where you can turn it around, much like should failure be fun? I was like, what if the goal in life is to be, not the best word, but dissatisfied? Like, you should be dissatisfied to a certain degree, because that means that you're moving forward. Like you shouldn't be dissatisfied in the same place, but it's okay to be different levels of dissatisfied.
You have to be dissatisfied just enough to keep trying something new.
Right, and to keep believing that you have to actually enjoy the challenge, which I don't always.
Yeah, you just hit the big thing, and it's nice to hear it from a comic who you love and admire. I feel like I'm in a bubble right now, and even before I don't blame it all on the pandemic. I don't see my friends enough because I think I'm successful.
Right, of course.
There's a weird thing with comedy. It's like a pyramid. As you get more successful, you see the people you started with less. Like you and I, you're over there at NPR, I'm over at ABC, I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing. Comedians work alone. I find,
it's true.
And then to make new comedian friends, I find depressing because it's two categories. People who either want what I got, or people who think I don't deserve what I got are the people you meet at the bar.
Right, because you do just want to, comedians love hanging out with comedians because you can talk shop and you share this bizarre lifestyle that is very, even if people have done it a couple times or if they've watched enough movies on comedy, is very hard to explain and relate to. And so you feel, and other comedians are often just funny, so you just feel like you're speaking the same language, but also there's baggage.
Yeah.
There's baggage. Like, you want to meet someone who's exactly your peer, but the truth in that, and I honestly believe, this seems to make me sound very old, but the younger generation, and I mean like people at least 10 years younger than me, or even started just 10 years later, are so much better than this, because I think they were just brought up in a general culture of like, let's bring each other up. And they also started in a time where people liked comedy. When we started, everyone hated comedy. Comedy was not a product anymore. No one was going to the clubs. No one gave two craps about comedy on television. It was before podcasts. It was before the heyday where there was work. So it did feel way more competitive.
Yeah, and I've never been good at competitive. Like, I never played sports. Though that was God telling me not to play sports in that regard. Like, every time I'd play a sport, something would hit my face. I enjoy lifting other people up, but then I feel like I'm a pansy. Like, what I like about podcasting, and actually what I like about, I took a few Adam Wade classes because I feel like the storytelling circuit's different, is I feel like in story...
Very supportive.
It is.
Yeah.
there's no way to make any money unless you're Adam Wade.
No, yeah, and he hustles like nobody's business. Yeah, he works harder than so many people. Yeah.
And the other freaky one is, I'm dropping names that people may not know. Jim O'Grady was a college professor of mine when I thought about going back to college. And then in Jim O'Grady's class, I realized this guy wants to be a comedian and I want to be a journalist. Maybe I shouldn't pursue this master's degree.
Jim O'Grady is a journalist. He is a journalist on WNYC, and he has an amazing podcast right now that won an award.
Did he? You see, now there you go. What is it? See, this is the problem with there being too many podcasts. I would listen to him. The man loves journalism, and I'm going to put that story on the side, or I'll save that for when I interview him because I just added to the interview list. But
no, and I you know what? I would love. That's so interesting that he was your college professor. Exactly. So storytelling, I agree. Storytelling is super supportive. You liked it, huh?
I loved it even because I think there is an emotional side of me that would like to tell good stories. I don't have the punchline every 15 seconds. I feel guilty when I make fun of my mom. Because, my mom is around and I'm afraid of making her cry if I really talked about the things that are putting me in therapy. If my mom heard one of my therapy sessions, she'd cry. She wouldn't even disown me. She'd cry. And that makes me feel awful. That's like knives in my heart. May your child be as good to you. You don't make fun of your family that much, right?
I do. And I do a little bit. And it's so weird doing Zoom comedy shows because I'll be talking, I'm talking like kind of at a more performative level than I would just be like conversing level. And they are just like right there. Like there's a wall here, but I know that these walls are paper thin plywood New York apartment walls. These are not like reinforced steel soundproofing. And sometimes I literally will using it correctly, I believe, catch myself in the middle of a joke that is a little bit not pleasant about them and just feel like I'll get quiet and I'll feel timid because I don't want them to hear. I wasn't meant to do this with them being the only live audience members.
Well, the stories I know about your husband are nothing but 100% sweet and compassionate and how he converted you from rock and roller into Brooklyn mom.
Well, yeah, someone converted someone. People change, Tom. People change.
Are you sure?
If anything about self-help you should know, I mean, I think about it all the time, is that, and that's, great. This is just but you record a national radio show at that same microphone. Often. Sometimes I go to a studio because there must be something happening in New York where the New York City construction looks at some sort of map and finds out when people are recording podcasts.
Right. Yep. Internet usage is up in Williamsburg. We got to do something here.
Yeah, and they're like, that is the street we need to dig up right now.
Oh my gosh, but this is...
I don't even know what that is. I've never heard... It sounds like a helicopter with a jet engine that has decided to take off.
Or a very lonely upstairs neighbor. One or the other.
But yes, I was going to say that Andy Christie, who's a wonderful storyteller, said this in the beginning of one of his stories, and I think about it all the time because I think it's so funny. And he was talking about it in context of being a little boy and his parents saying that they were separating and him going to each parent and saying why. And his mother saying, well, sweetheart, some people never change. And him going to his dad and his dad saying, well, sweetheart, people change.
And that's how I feel. I feel like the core of me has never changed. I've always been, except that now I got a more gray hair and a few more and a few less in the front. I think I'm an emotional, kind person. I think you're a rock and roller deep down. Like you are consistently you. You are still Ophira. You may have responsibility. No?
Yes. Oh my God. I can't. I'm such a bar fly, and not in the sense that I just need to sit at a bar and drink a million drinks, because I'm actually not interested in it. It's just where I feel the most comfortable in terms of a place. I should be in like a pub. Why am I here? I should be in Scotland or England or Ireland, where there's more of a pub community.
You have a son, right? You're
5. He's 5.
Okay, and now how are you handling... I'm recording this way earlier than I do the show. It's 9:15 a.m. I have the Tamron Hall show in about 10 minutes. And Ophira couldn't do the interview even earlier than this because you had to take your son to school.
That's right. Very important. The in-school days, very important.
How many of them are you getting, and how are you handling being a Williamsburg mom?
I'm a Park Slope mom. Please, I'm a Park Slope mom.
Is that better?
Well, it's actually just different. Williamsburg, I would say, would make me like if I was richer and hipper.
Well, in all fairness, our buddy Allison Castillo was there long before it was cool.
Oh my goodness. It's so funny because I think about going to her apartment in Williamsburg when I first met her, and it seemed so far and no man's land. I mean, the primest real estate. She lived in the primest real estate of all time.
And a funny one, my father used to be a firefighter there roughly 30 years ago now, 35 years ago. And I was working at a show at the Vice Network in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and my father got mugged on the Williamsburg Bridge in sight of City Hall and all of that. Wow. My father's like, you're going to get killed there. And I'm like, Dad, I'm not. It's rich now. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'm the trash. And true story, there was one night where I had a rough incident. The rough incident was on the Upper West Side. Like, I'm like, Dad, it was like, yes, I had a rough commute home, but I got mugged on my block, Dad, in Manhattan.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I mean, not hilarious. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't mugged.
What did they take?
No, you know what it was? Actually, it was a block away from West Side Comedy Club. Where I saw you in person last. And long story short, there's a homeless. I have sympathy for the homeless, and then there's the professional homeless, and then there's the dangerous folks who should be in an institution. There was one group of just dangerous guys that was an encampment. And long story short, this guy waves at me on that corner. And I kind of forgot the encampment was there. This guy waves at me, and I'm like, that's a guy who saw me at the comedy club. He knows I'm famous. I just can't remember who he is. He goes to shake my hand. I go to shake his. And then he grabs my hand, pulls me in, and tries to make out with me. It was like...
Wow.
It was...
You had a romantic mugging.
It was not... It was almost rapey. I mean, without using... and I was a little tougher than him. Yeah, I would love a romantic mugging. Yeah, I would love a romantic one. Like, buy me flowers, take my money. Okay, I'll take that.
I paid for my own flowers, but it was worth it because I felt loved.
Is this weird? Because I do want to get 2 or 3 deep things out of you before I just keep telling my own stories. Do you interact with moms? Like, do you interact with the like the PTA moms?
A little bit. I don't. God, I find it very, very hard to find. I've never related to a mom group. I have not been able to find my people. I think right now there is some cool people in my kids' kindergarten class, the parents that I would like to connect with. But honestly, this is like not the time to connect because it is pretty hard to be like, hi, we don't know each other. And you're totally overwhelmed by trying to do parenting and work at the same time, let alone like find a grocery store and put some food on the table. But you want to Zoom and get to know each other? Like, there's no way to...
Is that how people are doing it?
I don't know how people are doing it. I don't know. I don't think anyone's doing. I don't think people are doing. I think they're just waiting. They're like getting through and waiting for a time when... Well, I think if the weather was nicer, we would feel very different. But it's not like, hey, do you want to, it's 30 degrees. Do you want to stand on a street corner for a little while and tell a few stories about each other so we get to know each other?
like prostitutes with strollers? Oh, my God. By the way, that's the name of our third podcast, Prostitutes with Strollers.
Exactly. It's slightly more expensive. But yeah, I've had a hard time relating to moms. Also, just because back in the real days, Tom, when we were out performing at night, even though I do quite a few Zoom comedy shows at night, because why not? So I just felt like always I had a different structure to my days than everybody else. Yeah. Which was also hard.
Yeah,
it was just
there's no wind down Wednesdays if you're a comedian and a mom.
Yeah, and people get sick of the thing where you're like, I can meet you between 7 and 7:30 before I run to my spot.
Well, it's funny. I feel like everything you're talking about is part of what's kept me single. My Italian grandfather used to call it a gypsy job. You got a gypsy job, which sounds exciting, awesome. But he did not mean that as a compliment. He did not. And you're right. I feel like I wouldn't be... Part of what keeps me from having kids is I have this fear of being a bad dad. It's one of my biggest fears. And
I think everyone has that fear, by the way. Everyone has that fear that they're not going to do it well. Everyone.
And how are you handling it?
I don't think I'm good. I mean, I try my very best, and there's plenty of literature out there to reflect on. That world of publishing is just chock full to give you parenting tips. But, it pushes every button, and you have to really learn. And then it changes all the time because this little kid is just growing and changing at such a rapid rate that what worked yesterday doesn't work tomorrow. So you also can't get too precious with anything. It's hard. And I think some people are better than others. I myself didn't really interact or grow up around a lot of kids, so I also have nothing to draw upon other than myself. And you just have to learn fast, and you make mistakes, and it's not great. I actually, I joke about this, but it's true. I said to my therapist, I'm afraid I'm ruining him. Because right now because he's spending so much time with me. Before, it was like a lot of other things. So we sort of disperse the parenting over activities in school and other interactions, sort of like it disperses the parenting. But now it's like so much on me. And I said, I'm afraid I'm ruining him. And she said, do not worry. Little kids are so resilient. And you know what I said, Tom? Great. Then why do I talk to you every week about my childhood? Just curious.
Well, and I'll tell you this story. I'll tell you this great story is, so I have a distant cousin who may or may not be letting her 3-year-old boy wear a dress. And hang on. And you and I will go somewhere with this. And with the more old-fashioned parts of the family, there are people who are like, she's screwing the kid up letting him wear a dress. She's screwing the kid up letting him wear a dress. And I retorted with this story. I have a lot of friends who are 40-something who go to therapy every week because they feel their mom wouldn't let them wear a dress. I can't wait to be 80 and see this kid as a 40-year-old going to therapy because his mom let him wear a dress. And the moral of the story is no matter what you do, you're going to screw up your kid. So just be a good person and do your best.
That's right. And no matter what you do, other people are going to tell you how you're doing it wrong. I mean, that's like their unsolicited advice of what you should be doing. That is just so, I don't know why everyone is like this, but they love it. They love it. And you don't even want to, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to even take away from you the fact that you want to tell me I'm wrong, because I know you live for this moment.
So let me give you some unsolicited advice on handling unsolicited advice.
Yes.
No, actually, you know what's funny? I have a good friend who called me out on that. And I'll tell you, as the person who gives unsolicited advice, I tell you, you know what? I just feel like I have to say something. It's my turn to speak. At the end of the day, we all need to learn how to take unsolicited advice. But on the other hand, I'm now going into this cave of, I apologize for talking before I talk now. Because this one friend blew up on me. And frankly, I don't even want to get into whether or not I was right or wrong about whatever my advice was. But I just don't know what the fuck to say to people anymore. So I just start managing their lives. And I just think people need to look at me. When I give unsolicited advice, I'm living in a 1-bedroom and I teach people how to clap for a living. Do you really want to take me to heart and let me annoy you that much? Really? Really? If I say you're a bad mom, the clapper from ABC told you you're a bad mom. Is that really going to affect your day? Maybe
Well, I might give you a slow applause back. One of these.
A slow clap. So with a minute or two left, my failed self-help exercise, which I talked about earlier in the show, was I was listening to the Angie Lee podcast, who's an entrepreneur type, and the exercise they had was ask your friends when you were at your best, and then you can grow from there.
Interesting.
I thought it was great, and then on the list of Facebook and on my Instagram, people gave me a list of things that I can't do anymore. Tom, you're great when you're in front of 7,000 people performing. Tom, you're great at a comedy club. Tom, you were great when you were working as a merman down in Florida. It was like all these things that I can't do right now. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions to wrap this up. Do you remember when I was at my best in your eyes, if there is even an answer? And you could say I don't have an answer. That's fine, because I think it's a bullshit question now. And then what do you think your friends would say about when Ophira was at her best?
Okay, well, I'm going to unpack the first thing that you said about when you were at your best. And based on all of these things that you just said, like all your friends are like, oh, when I saw you perform here, when I saw you perform there. But I think what that says is not like, oh, I can't do that again, so I can't be at my best because I can't perform. What they are saying is that you have the magic, that they know you as a person, but when you are in these elevated entertainment scenarios, it's the magic, and they are completely entranced by that, and you can't take that away. There's no way to take that away. And so I guess what they're saying is that you are at your best when you're doing the work that either you love, or even if it's like something you partially love that you're just going to do because you love performing and working with the energy of other people. And you can't, there's no way that is not that's like special. Just special. No one can take that away. No one can touch that.
Yeah.
And the podcast is the closest thing you can do to it right now because we can't hang out in person.
Yeah.
So I would say this is you at your best because it's the closest.
I was hoping you were going to tell me I was also good at making brownies, and I would start a brownie business.
I don't know anything about your brownies.
No, I don't know. No, and yeah. You know what you are, though? You are so friggin' quotable. You are so quotable. You know what? I think we got to end here because I got to get back to work.
Okay.
Ophira,
all right.
Ophira Eisenberg, NPR's Ask Me Another. What is the Instagram and the social and all that?
For me, it's only one you need to know is at Ophira at Venmo.
It's the jury. I have 46 listeners live right now, and the listeners are hostages. We're not quite sure. We've been together for a while. My question for my listeners right now here in the jury is, when have you been at your best? E.g., what's your name? Where are you from? And when have you been at your best?
My name is Elvia Guyton. I'm from Hepzibah, Georgia, and I'm at my best right at this moment. I went through a lot since 2016, went through cancer, chemo, all that my mom getting sick and all that, but God is good. I went through counseling. He brought me through, and I am at my best right now.
So what is the secret to your energy? Is it prayer or medication? I can't tell.
We can say both, but prayer does work. But their medicines help a lot too.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to give another person a chance to talk. Who else has an answer for when are you at your best? SM, when are you at your best?
If I'm living my best life right now, I can only imagine what is about to come. My life is full. I am just so excited. And on top of prayer, all I need is prayer and just a vision. So I'm living my best life now, but oh my goodness, the best is yet to come. I am so excited about life. Yes.
I love it. And honestly, I'm taking a morsel of wisdom out of what you just said that I also need to add a vision. I've been having trouble with that one. John, when in your life have you been at your best?
Honestly, I've been at my best starting here in 2021. 2020, we went through a lot with the family, a couple of the kids getting COVID. They were able to pass through with that. And with 2021 starting, I was very fortunate to have a couple videos go viral. That got our story out there and my dad kind of humor out there. And so 2021 is looking promising and way better than 2020. So I'm at my best right now for 2021.
Oh my God. I love it. I love it. I'm going to need to get advice from you off air on how to go viral because I need a boost. And then let me do one last one. Does anybody have a home run to bring this home on? SR with the pearls. When in your life have you been at your best?
Hi, I too am at my best right now. I've gone through a divorce 20 years ago, got my son through college and law school, and I started my own business 5 years ago, and I am having a ball here in New Orleans, Louisiana. But mostly, I found love again, and I am at peace. I am at peace, and that's my best.
Now, the people listening to the audio version of this can't see a room full of people clapping for you. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. We will be back with silly fun with my friend Lauren Ray after this interstitial stock music. One more clappy thing from you?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, come on. Can I have a more enthusiastic clappy?
I have a baby sleeping. You cannot.
Okay.
Hopefully she's sleeping.
Well, hopefully the show's in sync. We don't know for sure, people. We don't know. That's the nice thing about having Ophira and Lauren on the show is the audio is so much better. They record on their end. It's called a double ender. It sounds like a creepy sexual position, but I promise you it's not. Though one day we are aspiring to do a triple ender.
Let's do it.
Oh my God, that's what I got with two married women, my first triple ender.
There you go. You're all set.
Speaking of married women, to Jacob Downey, who listens on our YouTube, Lauren got a great compliment. It was, "Who's the hottie behind the mic?"
It's hilarious. That's very kind.
Are you at the point where now that you're married and with child or had a child, does the sexual harassment feel good now?
Oh, that's funny. I don't consider it sexual harassment, and maybe I should, but I don't. I think it's a compliment, and like that's fine. So yeah, it feels good. I'll take it. That's nice.
And it's not harassment. Jacob's a
voice.
good kid, but he's appreciating you for your beauty as you're sitting there in a Who sweatshirt.
Wait a minute. Wait, he saw my face, or is he just listening to? Do you record this? Do you put this video out as well?
I guess now is a good time to tell you that.
I didn't know that.
Well, I record like one good chunk. I record the whole thing on video too. And then what I'm learning about this show is people like the Tom Kelly show, but people love it better when it's broken up, or I put it on different platforms. So I put one video.
I didn't know.
Of you talking about Jeopardy, the worst Jeopardy host, was on YouTube. It actually did well on YouTube. Got a couple of hundred hits.
All right, nice.
And one of the comments was, "Who's that hottie behind the mic?"
That's hysterical. I thought it was just based on my voice, and I was like, wow, that's pretty, you're making assumptions there, but I appreciate it. But yes, now you can see me in my Betty Who shirt. It's Who Crew, and it's my husband's. It says his name on the back. It says Matt. But yeah, so thanks for the compliment. No, I don't think that's like sexual harassment. I think it's very nice. It's fine. I liked it when I was single too. I don't care.
You know what it is? I never get compliments on my looks from the people I want to compliment my looks.
I understand that. Yeah. But I think you're a handsome person. I really do.
Well, you're kind, and I appreciate that, and it's nice to get that from the married women.
Yeah, okay, fair.
No, and I think, honestly, if you were single, you would be a little more resistant to share that.
I agree. But I also never shared that with... Yes, that's true. But I never share that with anybody. Like, even if I had feelings for that person, I wouldn't tell them because I'm weird. Like, I'm so uncomfortable with that kind of stuff.
Like giving you a compliment and knowing exactly that you're married. I've seen the kid pictures, and that has been the anti-aphrodisiac, okay?
Yes. Right.
That being said, my friend Greg Tufaro pointed out on one of the early shows, he said this as an astrologist and as a friend, that I tend to fall for women with whom I can imagine myself working with. And I will fall for, honestly, it's Instagram hotties who can talk. It's other comedians suddenly who can talk, and women who are at the top of their game, I suddenly have big crushes on. And to your credit, you sound hot on the radio.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
So I see America falling for you. I really do.
How kind. No, I appreciate it. It's funny. I think your astrologer friend is kind of astrologist, whatever, is on to something, because when you are married, I mean, it truly is a partnership. Like, you are working, and it doesn't have to feel laborious, but there are moments where you're like, oh, we have to work through this or else, oh no, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with finding someone who you think you can work with on many different levels. I think that's exactly what a marriage should be.
Well, it's funny. This is a big thing happening in local radio right now nationally. So it's not just people Lauren and I know, but there's a lot of guys doing shows with their spouse or significant other.
Correct.
Could you see yourself podcasting with Matt?
No, I don't think so. I think the first of all, even though my husband is in radio, he used to be on the air, but he's behind the scenes now. He understands how open and vulnerable you need to be when you're on the radio, and he doesn't really like that. So it would stop short. Like if we ever worked together, like it just wouldn't be a good show because it would get too real and he would shut down. Because like we talk about everything behind closed doors. Like there's nothing that's off limits, and we work through stuff really, really well, but he does not like sharing that with the world. And so I'm very careful about what I share about our marriage on the air too. And so it would never work if we did a podcast ever.
How, like, would Matt get upset that you mentioned Zoloft before when you were being open?
Oh God, no, because that's about me. So like anything about me, he really does not care at all.
So now if you said, I take Zoloft and Matt takes Jack Daniels, would that bother him?
No, I could say like, you know, my husband loves drinking his whiskey. Like he would have no issue with that at all because it's not a problem at home. You know what I'm saying? But I think if it was a problem, like if that's something that we had talked about where I said like, oh, I think you're drinking too much, like he would be really upset if I brought that on the air. But so I guess the cutoff is like if we've had a conversation about it where we have opposing viewpoints, generally speaking, like I don't bring it up on the air unless it's something stupid like, oh, should you pick up ice off the floor? You know, like if it's a real honest thing, then for the most part, I can't talk about it until it's way behind us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like if you were fighting about, I don't know, a night of bad sex, not for the podcast.
Right.
Or at least not for a few months.
Exactly. I could be like, fast forward 2 months later, I could be like, oh my God, there was this one time, and it probably wouldn't matter because it's not fresh on our minds and it's not an open wound. But like, I would not be able to talk about it the next day if we actually, because he's still working through it and I'm still working through it.
You see, and I think that's one of the things holding me back. We were talking about that with Ophira before, is I feel bad making jokes about living at home because I don't want to hurt my parents' feelings and I don't want it getting back to them. And you know, like right now I have a joke about a child I want to tell, and I'm thinking of making it my friend Dan Stanton's daughter and just blaming everything the wacky kid does and calling it Dan Stanton's daughter. And we're safe because it's a real friend. And that way, and Dan Stanton has no daughters, so I'm safe. And my family isn't close enough with Dan Stanton that keep track of whether or not he has a daughter.
Right, exactly.
So, like, I have a child in my life who I know is going to grow up and be a stripper one day. That's Dan Stanton's daughter. I could just tell. Yeah, the kid's already trouble. Dan Stanton's daughter, going to grow up and be a stripper.
I'm so sorry, daughter Stanton. That sounds awful. That sounds terrible.
The kid is trouble at age 6 or 15. Dan Stanton's daughter, like there. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I'm not.
Maybe
not. I don't know, but I have trouble with that. This was sort of the theme of the show. This came up in the jury. Ophira had a great answer for me. When I did the segment with the audience, when I asked, when were you at your best? Everyone said they were at their best right now. Even if they were going through hardships, they felt they were at their personal best now. We were talking about this at the top of the show. Do you have a moment where you think your friends would say you were at your best? Like, did you do your homework? Did Matt have an answer?
I did do my homework, and my husband's response was, what the F is that supposed to mean? So he's very smart and didn't answer.
And maybe that's the right thing, is maybe I'm just trying too hard about this shit.
So I will say, this kind of reminds me of the question, when were you at your best? When I lost my job, I didn't quite know how to rebuild myself, but I did know that I wouldn't have a job in radio for quite some time. And I think right now it's been close to 10 months or 9 months. So I was right? Like who knows if that's going to change anytime soon. And so I was like, well, I have to do something creatively and I have to kind of figure out, I have to like tap into when I was, quote, at my best. And so my motto sort of became, what would 23-year-old Lauren do? Because when I was 23, I was working for Elvis Duran in the morning show, my first job. I lived in Hoboken, New Jersey. I would go out every night. I would go to like the W in Hoboken. I would hang out with people that would buy me drinks all the time. Like I had so much fun. And then I would go to work and I would do voiceover stuff. I would do editing. I would do everything you could possibly do in radio because I was so enamored with it. And over the years, I think I sort of like, I got tired. I got run down. I got in a rut. When you become a mom, it's just like even more exhausting. And so I said, what would 23 23-year-old Lauren do? And I remembered how much I loved focusing on voiceover. And so I just said, you know what, if it made me happy then, I'm sure that that passion is still in there, and I just haven't made the time or prioritized the time to do it. So that's what I started doing this summer, was just focusing on voiceover. And I made demos, and then I sent them out to an agency, and then I got picked up with an agency. So like, to me, it wasn't necessarily when was I at my best, but it was when did I feel the most alive? And that's when I was like 23, and I just kind of tapped into what I was doing then and how I could maybe take parts out of that for my life right now.
Lauren, I was going to start doing stupid things about Bernie Sanders memes.
Oh, I love those memes.
But I don't think we're going to end better than that, my friend. I don't think we're going to end better than that. That was a perfect ending. And I adore you, and I adore doing this show with you.
Yeah, thanks. This is fun.
For those of you listening at home, here is my ask. If every show has an ask, here is your homework. And don't be like Lauren's husband and say, what the F is that? Okay? You do your damn homework. And that's, if you have time, go to the Apple Podcasts app, give us 5 stars. If you're feeling really crazy, go to TomKellyShow.com, scroll to the bottom of the front page, and put your email address in there, because I am trying to bypass big tech. True story. True story. I will ask questions for topics like I did before on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
And unless, like I asked, when were you at your best? Nobody answered. I asked another question. Nobody answered. I asked the same question a second time, putting in the words Trump, Hilaria, Hillary, and Bernie and Biden, and suddenly got 70 answers on the same question.
Are you serious?
The algorithm is out to get you people.
Ew.
They're not just, big tech isn't just censoring 45, ladies and gentlemen. They're censoring you. No, and you have to figure out either how to beat it or get around it. I'm not saying we have to revolt and cancel our Facebooks, but be aware of it.
So
and the way we're
storm
aware,
the Capitol is what you're saying, or not?
I'm saying you. Only Lauren. Nobody else. If Lauren stormed the Capitol with baby Sophie in one arm, I'm okay with it.
I'm kidding.
Oh, God. You know what I love? I think that's the first time I could laugh at that, but not really.
Oh, because it was a disgusting act of violence and insurrection, but also you have to laugh at how ridiculous it is that people were like, this sounds like a great plan.
Well, and you and I shared this moment. It's funny. We shared a moment without saying it. Last week, I felt I had to timestamp the episode politically.
Yes, right.
So people knew when we were recording it and what our... I can't wait to have just a couple of months of saying, this is it. Like, the nice thing about what's going forward is, and I'm doing the sign of the cross to make sure that I don't have to say, this is in between inauguration and Biden getting into a mud wrestling match with Mitch McConnell.
I know. I know. I have so many thoughts.
This is in between Kamala Harris telling
Kamala.
God damn it! You know
Wait,
what?
can we address that? Sonia Sotomayor was the one who swore her in, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sonia said Kamala, and I was like, God damn it!
You know what? I think at a certain point, and actually, it's funny that it was her, because I have met Justice Sotomayor. I admire her.
Have you really? Me too.
She was very gracious. Where you just called her Sonia, by the way. I did.
I did say Sonia Sotomayor. You're right, and then I just said Sonia. You're correct. That is disrespectful.
And the nice story about her is, she was very forgiving. I'm into the pomp and circumstance. This is one thing I do miss about the old days. Mm-hmm. And I get this from working with Barbara Walters. I miss pomp and circumstance and getting a person's title right, even if they don't care.
Sure.
I met really low level, like Nicole Wallace's ex-husband was an ambassador. I enjoyed calling him Ambassador Wallace.
Oh, yeah. It's respectful, though.
And he would say, please call me whatever the hell my first name was, which I can't remember. Please call me Chuck. No, you can't be a Chuck and an ambassador.
Right.
But whatever it was, and she was very forgiving about it. And I actually pulled one of her detail aside and I said, it's Justice Sotomayor, right? But I didn't have the confidence of going forward. And he said, or is it confidence or judge? I didn't know which was the right way to call her.
Oh, good question. Yeah, judge.
And it was Justice. It was Justice. Yeah. Anyway, she was I think at this point, man,
No, I'm sure Kamala does not care. The irony was that like we finally have, first of all, a woman in the office. We finally have a woman who is of, her mother was Indian, correct? And her father is black. I should know this.
Yes.
Okay. And it's like, I think it's so important to get people's names right. Like every time I have some sort of like voiceover thing to read, like with, I do like voiceover for reading these books, and like I scour the internet, try to find this person's name correctly, because I just think it's like such an important thing. And the irony was that I'm sure Justice Sotomayor was like, I know how to say this. Don't mess this up. Don't mess this up. And then she just got up there and blurted it out. Like, I know it's meant with no disrespect at all. I just think the irony was, here we are, like this history-making moment, and then it's like we can't even get this poor woman's name right.
Funny. Well, but before you bust her chops, this is someone where America got offended on her behalf for when we wanted to call her Sonia Sotomayor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can't. Yes. I agree. No, I'm sure she understands.
And the way I remember
like.
that was Sotomayor was a hot dog. Sotomayor is a Supreme Court justice.
Oh my God. Listen, I'm sure she understands like people mispronouncing her name. I understand people mispronouncing my stupid name, but I know.
But to your point now, because I'm never going to get Kamala right, especially being from Long Island, I will just call her Vice President Harris. Thank God for the new title.
Madam Vice President.
Madam Vice President. I'll do all the dancing. I'm going to do all the dancing. And you know what? What a great way to talk about a vice president and then say, good night, America.